Before we talk Ukraine's Game of Thrones, today's devastating installment on its war of drones. In Kherson, a Russian drone dropped an explosive in through the roof of this bus. According to officials, 4 people were killed, a 69-year-old man and 3 women, aged 63, 71 and 89. Then the driver drove the bus, presumably still on fire, to the nearest hospital.
I decided that we couldn't wait for an ambulance for the wounded, and we went straight to the regional hospital.
And today Ukraine is asking itself, could elections really take place in a city like Kherson? Here's why. The Ukrainian parliament rubber-stamped the appointment of the acting Minister of Defense, Yevgeny Khamera, this morning. He replaced the popular Mykhailo Fedorov after he was fired by President Zelenskyy after just 6 months in the job. Yesterday, in an online address, Fedorov let rip at Zelenskyy's government and called for wartime elections, even though martial law means they can't happen as things stand.
What if the war lasts another year, 2, 3? Can Russia effectively be given the power to decide when Ukrainians will be able to elect their government again? I'm convinced the answer is no.
The reason for Fedorov's dismissal last month wasn't just about a toxic working relationship with the then commander of Ukraine's army, now also removed. It was also about competing visions of how the war should be executed. Thousands took to the streets in support of Fedorov, who they saw as the tech-savvy young modernizer, all about the data. After calling for elections last night, Fedorov turned to corruption in government.
Corruption is only a symptom. The main problem runs much deeper. We have a systematic crisis of governance.
Today, Ukraine's anti-corruption agencies released wiretaps, they say justified raids on the homes of politicians and bank staff, including a senior aide to Zelenskyy, Irina Mudra, part of an ongoing probe into graft in the country's energy sector. So, with his bungled cabinet reshuffle and ally-turned-adversary, the pressure's on President Zelenskyy. But does that mean that elections could or would happen?
It's clearly not just a question of, it would be nice to have elections. Firstly, because there are a lot of technical processes to think through. So many Ukrainians are displaced. What do you do about the occupied territories? These are huge questions that are not necessarily impossible to resolve, but they certainly require, some considerable thought and preparation of legislation.
So what next for Fedorov? Hard to say, but even ardent supporters who we spoke to today are questioning the wisdom of his call for wartime elections.
Why you propose something which can really destroy our country? It's, we need elections, we all know, but we also all know that consequences of elections may be catastrophic.
But even if there were elections, who'd win? Zelenskyy's approval ratings hover around the 25% mark and suggest that Fedorov would get knocked out in the first round of a presidential election. Ukraine and Russia exchanged just over 100 prisoners of war today. These Ukrainian soldiers talking to their loved ones for the first time. Dmytro, for example, is 29. Has been in a Russian prison for 3 years. This has been a very long war for him and for every Ukrainian, all still coming to terms with what it means for them and for their democracy.
Poruk O'Brien reporting. Well, joining me now are 2 Ukrainian MPs, Volodymyr Ariev and Oleksiy Goncharenko. Both represent the European Solidarity Party, but they have very differing views about the wisdom of holding an election during a hot war. Welcome to both, gentlemen. Volodymyr, if I can start with you. I gather you're in favour of an election now or soon. Why?
Well, we are in Ukraine now after the Zelenskyy policy, and I totally agree that corruption now is a real problem. We have corruption scandals almost monthly, and today is the fresh one. And we need to reboot the power. And at the same time, if we're not going to do that, it is a chance that with losing of trust to the government, we are going to a real problem with the chaotic situation in Ukraine. So we have a choice between bad solution and worst. And this is not an easy question. We cannot make elections during the wartime, and we need really to prepare it, and it's not an easy task.
Okay. I think what you just said, Volodymyr, is that you do want elections, but it's going to be very difficult, the timing to be sorted out. Alexei Goncharenko, do you agree with your colleague from the same party that there should be early elections or not?
I want to see elections as soon as possible because it will mean that we have peace in Ukraine. In other case, I can't imagine how we can do this. So that is the problem, that in Ukraine, security reasons, not just legislation, but security reasons, they do not allow us to have elections right now. And I think the problem with Mr. Fedorov's statement, big problem, is that he didn't speak any word about peace. The second problem with Mr. Fedorov's statement is that he was accusing the system, he said, which is bad and corrupt. And I completely agree with him. The system is bad and corrupt, but not like him. Together with my today friend and opponent on the live, Mr. Ariev, we were fighting against this system for all these years. And Mr. Fedorov was building the system for all these years. He was essential part of Zelensky's team. He was the only minister in all Zelensky's governments and on a very high level. And my question is very simple. If Mr. Fedorov thinks that the system is bad and corrupt and we need elections, why he didn't tell this month ago when he was the Minister of Defense, but he's telling this now? Okay,
do you think then this is a power grab by the former defense minister, Mr. Fedorov?
Me personally, I think so. I think that this is his political interest, and I think we need to make our decisions from the state interest and the interest of Ukrainian people.
Okay, so a power grab by Mr. Fedorov. Do you support Mr. Fedorov in all this, Volodymyr Ariev?
Well, you know that, for my opinion, the best heavy ram against the system usually is from a part of that system. That's why I understand that Mr. Fedorov, as well as he was a part of Zelensky team last 7 years, and he knows everything there from inside. So I do believe that if he fed up with all what he knows and what he had there, this is a chance for Ukraine to have a new path. We are vitally need to have. Of course, we need to have at least an election ceasefire to hold it on, and it's not an easy task. I presume it could happen. At least 6 months.
Let me ask you this question. There's a report tonight from the Kyiv Post that Mr. Fedorov may want to go to Washington at some stage in the next few days, and that he may be talking to the Trump administration. Is it the fact, or is it possible, let me rephrase that he has become Trump's candidate in this election?
I don't believe in that, that he will be a candidate from Trump, or even he will be a candidate. I think that it is very early to say about the candidates, as well as at least, as I said, at least half a year to possible elections. And I think he would like to meet maybe Elon Musk, maybe other from Miltech corporations, some officials.
Okay.
But I think we will be faced to have one candidate that will oppose Zelensky at the end to make an elections in one round.
Mr. Goncharenko, I mean, we're deep in the weeds here of Ukrainian politics, but it matters because the whole world takes an interest in your war. And of course, many Western governments have supported your government in all this. You're caught between a rock and a hard place, aren't you? There is a corruption problem. You need a new mandate for this government, arguably. But at the same time, this could go horribly wrong. And you're actually probably doing Putin a favor.
Yeah, that's true. That is dilemma. And one person to blame in all this situation is Zelensky, President Zelensky, because with what he is doing, for example, in the United Kingdom, there were no elections between 1935 and 1945, and nobody questioned British democracy. But the thing was that there was an inclusive process, and Prime Minister Winston Churchill united the whole political spectrum in the national unity government. And unfortunately, that is exactly what Zelensky is not doing. He wants to rule the country autocratically, a little bit like a king, and he doesn't want to share responsibility and power. And because of this, we have now a really dilemma that we can't have elections, we can't change Zelensky, but many people, including me, are very, very angry about how Zelensky runs the country.
Yeah. Okay, the irony, of course, is that Churchill won the war and united the country during the war, and then he lost the election afterwards. So democracy can be very cruel. Alexei Goncharenko, Volodymyr Ariev, thank you very much to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And in Germany, prosecutors have said that a second Ukrainian man has been arrested on suspicion of involvement in explosions that sabotaged the Nord Stream 1 gas pipeline back in 2022, naming him as Volodymyr Z. The pipeline is a vital route for Russia to export gas to Europe. German prosecutors believe the aim of the blast was to permanently halt gas deliveries in order to prevent Russia making money that could then finance its war effort against Ukraine.